Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you guys are having a good day. In today's episode, we're taking a bit of a break from stuff over at the museum site to explore the Nether, because if I turn on the F3 debug screen here, you will see in the top left corner I have now updated to Minecraft 1.16.2, and that has introduced a couple of new things, more specifically changes to Bastions, which I really want to explore with you guys on camera. We will need to find a brand new Bastion for this. I'm going to pick up a couple of supplies here, including a few boats, which I seem to have here in this chest. I might bring a few of these as well, and I'm probably also going to bring some rails and some minecarts, because we have a new mob to trap, a new mob which is going to be very exciting and also a little bit dangerous to encounter. So I've got a shulker box of minecarts here, which I guess I will bring with me. We've got a few rails in there as well. I think we'll probably need some powered rails for this also, so I'll grab some of those out of here if I have some in my... Which one's the rail box? There it is. And the chest is getting a little bit packed these days, so I'll grab some powered rails and something to power them, and I'll meet you guys in the Nether. Now, if you've been keeping up with Minecraft news over the last few weeks, you probably know what we're after, or if you've read the title, because I presumably have put the mob's name in the title somewhere. Today, we are going looking for a Piglin Brute, a new mob which has been added to Minecraft 1.16.2 and is most likely to be the last major addition to the Nether update. So after this, we're probably going to be looking forwards towards 1.17 and whatever features that brings. But today, I'm going out looking for a Bastion, and a new Bastion, one that we have not explored before, so I can find some of these Piglin Brutes, because they will only generate in Bastions as part of the structure generation in much the same way that Vindicators and Evokers do in Woodland Mansions. And now, of course, you can find Vindicators and Evokers appearing in Pillager raids now. If you activate a raid with Bad Omen, you will most likely find that in the final few waves, you'll end up with a couple of Evokers arriving with the usual Vindicators that have been part of the raid from the beginning. But before that, we could only ever find them in Woodland Mansions, and with Piglin Brutes, they are only found in Bastions. There is no Piglin equivalent of a raid right now, and I don't know if there are plans for something like that in future. Therefore, we're going to have to raid a new Bastion to find one. And they will not appear in old Bastions like this one. This is a treasure room Bastion, which I found very close to a site where I am now mining for ancient debris. And I found this before 1.16.2 was released, and as a result, unfortunately, we do not have any Piglin Brutes spawning within this structure. I say unfortunately, they are kind of a difficult mob to handle, but it's just worth pointing out at this point that you will not find them generating in structures which you've already generated. They do not respawn in Bastions, they will only appear in Bastions when the world generates one. And in this case, this was generated in a previous version, so we don't find any here, and we are going to have to go further afield. And I'm going to head southward and eastward in this world, mainly because it is a direction I'm fairly confident I have not explored too much of, but also because that is the set of coordinates in which direction the museum is, because part of my agenda here, part of the reason I'm going out looking for Piglin Brutes, and the reason I want to capture them instead of just straight up slay them where they stand, is because I want to make sure we have a Piglin Brute that we can bring back to the museum. Much like other Piglins, of course, Piglin Brutes will end up zombifying in the overworld. If you bring them back to the overworld, they will turn into a zombified Piglin and not be much use to you after that, but I think it is worth making sure that we at least have a couple of examples of a Piglin Brute available to us here in the Nether, so that we can examine them whenever we want to and set up a section of the museum that exists in the Nether for us to come back to. Now, I can tell that these are newly generated chunks because I've flown into this area and this lava was still in the process of flowing, so it looks like some of these areas are definitely going to be ones that we have not yet explored, and I am looking around here for any signs that a Bastion will be nearby. They will not spawn in Crimson Forests, where the other Piglins tend to spawn naturally. Instead, like I said, we're only going to be finding them in Bastions, so hopefully we find one of those in this area. Okay, I think this may be a new Bastion. This looks like it might be one that I have not explored before. and it's in a pretty precarious place. We are right here in a soul sand valley. There are endermen around as well, and I need to be pretty cautious in this area. The first thing I want to do is walk up to this bastion and see if in the subtitles I can see any Piglin Brutes making noise, because those are really going to tell me whether or not this is a bastion where I will find Piglin Brutes to begin with. And I'm not seeing any so far, so I'm wondering if they are just out of earshot or if I'm just not going to find any and I've already raided one of these bastions in the past. Now, the Piglin Brutes do have quite a distinctive appearance, so we're also on the lookout for a Piglin which is wearing black clothing and holding a gold axe. Much like the Vindicators, which I've already compared them to in this episode, they are axe-wielding piglins, and it doesn't look like we are finding any of them in here. So it looks like this is a bastion that I've already generated. I'm going to have to go even further afield to find one that will work for us. And so it's time to retreat to a safe distance so the piglins won't get mad at me if I open up my fireworks shulker box, grab myself some more fireworks, and continue our journey deeper into the Nether. Okay, this one right here is looking likely. This is a pretty long distance, and yes, I just saw in the subtitles a Piglin Brute snorting. This is very good news and also slightly scary news. I think I'm going to have to step back into the Crimson Forest over here to grab some of the stuff I want from here. But this bastion is about 3,000 blocks out in a diagonal from my central location in the Nether, from my Nether spawn point, and so it's going to be quite a trek getting these Piglin Brutes back to the center of the world, but I am determined to give it a go. Maybe not in this episode, but at some point in future. Today, I'll just be happy capturing these guys and showing them on camera so we can examine exactly what it is that makes them so brutal. Now, as I was saying earlier, the Piglin Brutes will only spawn with the structure. We're not going to get any chance at getting another one, so we're going to have to be a little bit careful here. Protect yourself, defend yourself if you must, but if you want to capture one of these things, it's going to be best to make sure you do it the first time you raid a bastion. I think that might be one down there. Yep, I wonder if he's seen me quite yet, or maybe he's just lying in wait, waiting to trap me. We will see. But Piglin Brutes are these black-clad piglins that you can see there holding axes. Yep, looks like he's seen me. I wonder if he's able to make his way up from there, or if there's something blocking his path. Well, I'm going to be very, very careful about this, because they will deal a ton of damage, and they also have a ton of health. So the main thing I want to do right now is make sure I can trap one in a boat, which is the reason I have all of these boats on me. And in future, it would be better if we end up trapping them in minecarts as well. But for now, what I'm going to do is lay a boat at the top of these steps here, just to make sure that if the Piglin Brute decides to pathfind towards me, he will hopefully end up getting trapped in this boat. And from there, we can deal with whatever the other consequences of our actions are. Yeah, it looks like both the Piglin there and the Brute behind him are actually kind of stuck in this little alcove, so I'm just going to try and give them an easy way up. There we go, the Piglin Brute is captured in a boat, and from here we can take a slightly closer examination of what these guys look like. They are battle-scarred piglins. They have the gold armor, the gold belts, kind of gold wrist guard thing there, and that brilliant golden axe. Sometimes those axes may even be enchanted from what I've seen, so it looks like we will have a lot of damage to take from this guy. I'm going to walk up to him with my shield, and if he attacks me... Oh gosh, there's another one. Okay, right. This is the time I need to grab myself another boat. And let's see if we can capture 2 of them up here. That would kind of be ideal. Yes, there we go. Okay. Well, we can use this one as our test subject then. You'll find a decent amount of these Piglin Brutes spawn in bastions, usually at least 4 and potentially more than that. So if you end up killing one, but you want to keep hold of a couple of the others, don't worry. You will be able to find a couple more of them around, and there may be other bastions out there that have them if not. Now let's take out these steps here so I can get a little bit closer to this guy here, and I'm going to hold my shield up so he can whack it with his axe, because if he does that... Yeah, there we go. He is... Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, wow. That'll happen very, very fast. So the first thing that happened was he stunned my shield. And as you know, if you've played any PvP in versions of Minecraft past 1.9, axes have the ability to stun shields. You'll notice there was a little bit of a white cooldown bar over my shield, and what happened immediately after that was, because I was holding down right click to block with my shield, I ended up getting in the boat with him. And so because boats can have 2 passengers, that was almost the death of me. And did you see how much damage he did to me? he did 2 hits, and I was down to about 3 hearts. So these guys hit incredibly hard. Axes, as you know, will do about 9 base damage regardless of what material they are made of, so even a wooden axe in the hands of a Piglin Brute would be terrible, but of course they have golden axes because they are piglins, and why wouldn't they? So it looks like we've got 2 of them captured here at the top of the Bastion, and these are the ones that I probably want to get in minecarts simply for ease of transport back to wherever I want to store them in the center of the world. Now, there are a couple of other Piglin Brutes in here, no doubt, and I'm a little bit concerned that they're going to sneak up on me while I'm trying to prepare this area to grab those guys in a minecart. So here's hoping we can track down a couple of them and get them contained before we do any further damage. So the Piglin Brutes have been added to the game to make sneaking around bastions that little bit harder, because these piglins will be aggressive to the player regardless of whether or not you are wearing gold armor. Like, I'm wearing gold armor myself right now, as I always do when I enter the Nether these days, just to avoid any unwanted piglin attention, but these Piglin Brutes do not care. They will also not be distracted by you throwing gold objects on the ground in the same way that regular piglins will. So if I was to get out my my gold from my ender chest and throw an ingot down on the ground, this guy would immediately pick it up and inspect it, and if he was angry at me, that would distract him from attacking me. However, Piglin Brutes are not going to afford the player the same generosity. They are going to continue to pursue the player no matter what, meaning that you are kind of forced to defend yourself in certain situations. But if you were to attack a Piglin Brute, that would naturally aggro all of the other piglins in the area, and they would become aggressive to you. So that is something you do not want to get yourself into. And that is why my key suggestion for dealing with Piglin Brutes is to bring something to trap them in, like a boat, because in Java Edition at least, boats are incredibly effective at trapping mobs. If a mob is moving into the hitbox of a boat, they will basically get into the boat immediately, and as you've seen with those 3 Piglin Brutes, that immobilizes them, making it pretty effective at stopping them in their tracks. And now, naturally, if we want to move the brutes from location to location, as we do in the case of the museum, and there are other things that we could use Piglin Brutes for elsewhere in the world as well, we're going to want to put them in a minecart, because rowing with a Piglin Brute behind you is not going to be a safe thing to do. There is potential for us to do what we did when we brought shulkers back from the end, and get the thing in a boat, and then get the boat into a minecart, so that it ends up driving along the rails of its own accord. But once again, that is going to require a lot of rail placement, a lot of tricky navigation back through the Nether, and making sure that we don't run into anything that's going to harm the piglins, like wither skeletons, or potentially blow up our rails, like ghasts. And while we're on the subject of things that are making bastions a little harder to raid, there has been a bit of a change to the way newer bastions will generate, and it's actually not something that's happened here, thankfully, but you will notice that these chests down here are pretty close to a block of Gilded Blackstone. Gilded Blackstone is one of those blocks, because it drops gold and because that is precious to piglins, that piglins will get really mad at you if you end up mining it. Regardless of whether or not they are in the room with you, they will hear you mining the Gilded Blackstone and they will get mad. Now, thankfully, there aren't any around here, so I can open this chest without any piglins getting mad at me, and I can open this one here as well. Let's actually grab all of those golden carrots, because they will be pretty useful to me, and any piglins in the local area are going to get mad at me if I break these chests. So previously, the strategy was to dig out the block underneath these chests and place a hopper underneath, maybe into some other sort of container that you could inspect the inventory of, and that would allow the player to pilfer the contents of the chest without the piglins getting mad at you. However, in this newer Bastion generation, you will often find that Gilded Blackstone blocks appear underneath these chests, meaning that if you try and break the block underneath there, you will find the piglins get mad at you automatically because you've just broken a block of Gilded Blackstone. So there's one thing to consider. If you are considering raiding a Bastion, make sure that you're able to block yourself off from any piglins who might attack you. Their aggro will still expire after a certain amount of seconds, and you can still open chests as long as there are none of them in the room with you. You just got to make sure that breaking stuff is something you take into account now. I spy another Piglin Brute down there, and it remains to be seen whether he has espied me or not, but there are definitely a few of them walking around here, and this is, of course, a treasure room Bastion, meaning that we will have even better loot further down into this structure. I am a little bit worried about going down and getting it, though, because it looks like there are a lot of these guys around, and these bastions are pretty large, so there are ample spaces for Piglin Brutes to spawn down here. I'm a little bit worried about it, and it's also in a very enclosed space, so there will be kind of fewer places that I can make an easy getaway. Yep, there's a couple of them just standing in the doorway, and this one standing guard over there on the left-hand side. But I'm kind of hoping that I can drop down here and maybe get the drop on a couple of these Piglin Brutes. Now, can they attack me if I'm standing on a 3-block high pillar? I know that Hoglin can, so I'm quite keen on taking the Hoglin out as soon as possible, and potentially any of the skeletons that are lurking around here as well, because they can shoot me from a distance and take me off of this pillar. Now, what I absolutely want to do in this case is set up some kind of powered rail track like we have down here that will hopefully be able to store some of the piglins in minecarts, and that will be a little bit easier for me to come back to in the event that we want to grab some of these guys for the museum. So let me try and place... Oh no, he did not care about the rails. Now he's exhibiting that odd behavior mobs have when they are just slightly confused by the fact they're standing on rails to begin with. And now I have a minecart over there, and I don't know if he's going to run into it or not. Maybe if I parkour over to here... Well, he's just fallen. Okay, well, at least I can retrieve this minecart without any worries, unless that guy feels like running into it, but I have a feeling that he's not going to run over the rails now. Well, maybe if I'm a little bit sneaky here, I can break that rail, I can place a lever on it. I've already tried to do this once or twice, but the minecart wasn't going to move because it wasn't against a block already. If I power this... Yes, there we go. We have a Piglin Brute in a minecart. Okay, that was actually pretty painless, thankfully, because these guys can be incredibly painful, as we know already. So now we have at least one Piglin Brute trapped in a minecart down here, and I only have one other minecart on me, so I wanted to make sure that I grabbed hold of one of them where I could. What happened to that guy who was over here? He seems to have fallen down a couple of levels, which is fine. We've got another one down there as well, and this Hoglin is coming for me, so I'm going to beat a hasty retreat up these steps so that it cannot follow me, because I don't want to be thrown off into the lava down here. But that right there is a success. We have a Piglin Brute trapped in a minecart. We have 2 more trapped in boats upstairs with other piglins besides, and you don't need to worry about these guys despawning if you leave the area, because of course, like the Vindicators and Evokers in Woodland Mansions, they have been tagged to not despawn if they are outside of the player proximity, which makes sense really, because you wouldn't want them to just spawn and then despawn again as you are flying past a bastion, especially since they do not respawn. They will only spawn on structure generation. So I'm going to tidy up around this Piglin Brute for a second if I can get a little bit closer to him. There we go, to grab all of the stuff that I need to grab from him, and maybe we can take a peek inside and see if there's any more Piglin Brutes indoors that we can capture in a boat here or there. But I'm a little bit worried about turning my back on these guys, so I'm going to have to stay extra alert here and make sure that I'm checking my corners at all times. Yep, as you can see on the lower levels, right before that pathway that leads up to the treasure, there is a Piglin Brute standing on that walkway. So that is the kind of guy that we might want to dispatch, or at least capture in a boat, so he's not going to tangle with us while we're making our attempt on the treasure room. And I can hear a skeleton firing at me, so I really don't want to be standing on a ledge right now. I'm a little bit apprehensive of this, and I don't want to attack the Piglin Brutes directly because they are going to get the other piglins in the area mad at me if I do. So I'm going to gently make my way around the room here, and I kind of want to see if there are any examples of the chests generating on Gilded Blackstone. I know there are some chests in this structure a little bit further down, but I'm a little bit worried that if I push my luck here, I may end up getting killed by one of these brutes, because they pack one heck of a punch. We definitely have another one walking down there on the lower levels. That is 6 or 7 that I've counted so far in this bastion, so there are definitely plenty of them around. Let's see if we can do a little bit of parkour here to make sure we get over to a safer area. And they definitely have a distinctive snort to them as well. Oh, that one seems to have fallen down a hole. Well, that's good news for me. I'll keep the boat on me just in case he resurfaces from anywhere. But there are definitely a lot of places these can hide behind corners and really mess you up if they get hold of you. Yep, there are 2 brutes down there on the bridge, and I really don't feel like tangling with either of them. If I end up going down there, I will also have the magma cube spawner to deal with, which could present a pretty big problem. So I think maybe we're going to back out of this bastion for now until I've got a few more Piglin Brute catching supplies on me. I'm not entirely sure I feel comfortable tangling with them all that much. The important thing is we've captured some of them, and I know where plenty of them are. They are quite a distance away in the Nether, but I'm confident that we can take them back to the central part of the world if we need to, and I don't really feel like tangling with them any more than I have to. You got to know when to retreat if we're not going to get too greedy, push our luck, and end up dying out here, because it would be a pain to come back here and have to reclaim all of my stuff from about 3,000 blocks away. But we're going to leave these two chilling in boats here as well. We will come back to reclaim them at another point. I will need to figure out a way of making sure we have a rail connection back to the center of the world, and that could be via the Nether roof like we did with the Vindicator from the Woodland Mansion, but of course we have to make sure we aren't using Nether portals with these guys, because once they go through to the overworld, they will zombify and turn into a zombie piglin holding a gold axe, which is not exactly what we want. And much as I would like to try the sneaky strategy of breaking into the bottom of this bastion from the side and claiming the treasure from there, it looks like the entire bottom half of it is currently encased in netherrack, and there are a lot of angry mobs around there like skeletons and hoglins and that kind of stuff. So yeah, maybe we'll leave it for today, but I'll take the coordinates of this so we can make it back here. 1970, 2675. That is not too terrible. I feel like we got pretty lucky finding this thing without having to go 5,000 blocks out or more. It's going to be a heck of a job getting back to the center of the world with those Piglin Brutes, but I have faith that we can do it. And I think that is where we're going to wrap up this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. Happy to show you a look at the Piglin Brutes. We'll probably be using them for some other interesting stuff. Like, for example, we could probably get these guys into a wither skeleton farm and automatically kill the withers to set up an automatic coal and bone farm. But either way, that's going to be it for this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. I do hope you've enjoyed this look at Piglin Brutes with me. Folks, leave a like on it for me if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.